I want to talk about consistency in a way that is not hustle culture, grind, push yourself, or die mentality, but something in my life that I've found to be a little bit more realistic. Hello and welcome to Human to Human. My name is Jessica Jane. You can call me Jess. And today I'm very excited to talk about consistency because it is something that I've been playing around with in my own life. But when I've heard people talk about it, when I've thought about it myself, I assumed being consistent with something meant you have to go full force, gung ho, 100% or no percent type shit. And that just never felt sustainable. It never felt empowering. It felt like it came with a lot of shame. It felt overwhelming. And in the past 2 months, I've found a way to be consistent with a goal of mine in my life without killing myself over it and without hating the thing and without dreading the thing and without wishing I never wanted to do the thing. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I actually tried to record this episode once before and it just didn't come out the way I was hoping. And so I think a little secret sauce for podcasting for me is recording in the morning because I'm in a little bit more of a grounded place than when I have ideas flying out the wazoo. So for me, the thing that I've been really passionate about getting consistent with is writing. And that's no secret in this new season of Human to Human. I've been more honest about this and more just vulnerable that I am working on writing a book. And for the past 8 weeks, I have written or worked on or thought about or researched something in relation to this book almost every single day. And I say almost every single day because I'm a fucking human. We are not perfect. We miss things. I got my period one day and I didn't. Oh, one day. I got my period twice in the last 2 months, I would hope. And I didn't work on it one day, or I was sick, or I was on a vacation. But for the majority of the past 8 weeks, I have worked on this book in some capacity every day. Okay, and I've learned something from this, and I want to share it. And one of the things is that showing up every day, working on something, and being quote unquote consistent to me means that it's actually going to look different every day. First of all, before we even get into that, who the fuck cares about being consistent? Why is it something we think is important? I feel like it's something we get bombarded with on social media all the time about in order to work on your dreams, you got to be grinding on them constantly. I have definitely been victim to that, for lack of a better word, where I've just really taken on that messaging. And the way I have been approaching being consistent has allowed me to feel really, really good about it. And being consistent helps us achieve something. There's no doubt about that. Working on something every day or every week allows us to work toward a goal. Whether that goal is writing a book or getting into the best physical shape you've ever been in your life, or training for a 10-kilometer run or a half marathon, or maybe it's getting ready for a performance. Anything that you are working towards, it definitely takes practice and it takes putting in the reps and putting in the hours. But to me, I'm learning that that doesn't need to feel grueling and awful. It can feel satisfying. It can feel rewarding. And it can be something that allows you to see yourself in a whole new light because you're like, wow, I didn't know I could be this version of myself that shows up every single day, not only for my goal, but for myself. Because if it's something I'm so excited to achieve, then I want to show up for it. And showing up for it means showing up for me, which means showing up for my higher self, which means showing up for this better version of myself that I'm actively trying to work on and become. And it's really also helped me build trust with myself. Now, the way this has looked has not been the way I expected. I set out a goal a couple months ago to work on my book and to work on my book every single day. But I tried to work on too many goals at once to start. So I was like, I want to work on my book, but I also want to do breath work every day, and I also want to exercise every day, and I also want to do this and that and this. And so I got overwhelmed. Starting with 6 goals all at once does not work. Our body gets confused. We start to feel overwhelmed. We start to feel unsafe. Too much change at once. We will literally register as it being dangerous. And so it failed that's okay. And I had to reevaluate, and I was like, okay, no, we are just going to focus on working on the book. Every day in some capacity, I set the intention of if you could write for 20 minutes each day. Because I found that like I could write for 5 minutes, but then I give up after that point. So I'm like, 20 minutes, let's see. But even if you do not do 20 minutes, that's okay. And the way I stayed inspired and the way I stayed motivated was to write out a calendar and allow myself to cross off every single day that I successfully worked on the book in some capacity. And I put it on my dresser so that it faced my bed and I had to see it multiple times a day. So I had moments over the past 2 months where I would be about to fall asleep. I'm getting ready for bed. I'm like cozying up. I look across the room and I'm like, oh shit. I can't cross off a day because I totally forgot to work on my book today. I want to be able to cross off the day. Like sometimes it literally came down to just wanting to be satisfied and seeing that every day had an X on it. And that was enough of a trigger for me to be like, okay, fuck it. I'm so tired, but I'm going to grab my laptop and I'm just going to write as much as I can right before I go to bed. And I am sure there is some scientific psychological backing for this, that it is like a positive feedback loop of every time I do it, I get this reward by getting to cross off this day. And then it's like super satisfying to see multiple days in a row of X's. And don't get me wrong, there are days that I've missed, but I had this mentality of like, okay, maybe I was traveling that day and I didn't write that day, or maybe I felt really unwell that day and I didn't write. But to remind myself in that moment, it doesn't matter you missed a day, doesn't mean you need to give up the whole streak, just get right back on it. And in the course of a 4-week calendar, one day without an X does not look that bad when every other day is crossed off. And so I didn't allow myself to get discouraged, because also I allowed myself to have a lot of flexibility with what it meant to be able to cross off a day. It didn't just mean writing for 20 minutes. If that day I talked to a friend for an hour about this book and my thought process and I got their opinion, that to me I considered working on the book. Or if I researched how to write a book, how many chapters are in a book, how many words, how do you find an editor, all of that I considered working on the book. The book isn't just about writing. It's also like consistency to me wasn't just about getting the word count in. I mean, this might change also as I evolve in this journey, because at a certain point it's like it will become about the word count and it will become like, okay, you need to get the book done. But in order to start this insanely daunting thing, I had to make it approachable. I had to make it doable. I had to make it seem like I wasn't climbing up a huge mountain, even though that's kind of what I'm doing. And so I allowed myself to cross off a day, and then this started to help me take shape of like, what is consistency to me? Because I thought it was this full force, go ham, kill yourself mentality. It is not. To me, I started to realize that consistency means for me showing up every day in whatever capacity is available. Some days I go to the library and write for a whole hour. Other days I would just do a little bit of research. Either way, still crossed off the day. And I started to learn that consistency to me meant I spent some amount of time and some amount of brain power every single day thinking about this book. If I went a day where I didn't get to cross it off, that meant that I completely forgot the book even existed. It wasn't even in the ether of like possibility of what my brain was thinking about. Okay. And so I've learned consistency to me is, yeah, we're making progress towards writing this book, but not just that. We are actively thinking about it, working on it, planning for it, evolving, brainstorming, all the things. And that is way more important than pushing ourselves every day. Because I think pushing myself that hard every single day to like make 10,000 words come out of my body, that is setting myself up for failure, because I'm going to feel like shit about myself when I don't make that happen, because every day that's not possible for me. Some days I work a 7-hour shift. I'm exhausted. I'm on my feet all day. I commute an hour there, an hour back. I spend the time before and after getting ready, meal prepping so I don't have to buy food, sleeping, resting, moving my body, all the things. And so on days like that, it's like maybe I jotted down a bunch of different ideas while I was on the subway. And that's enough. That means I thought about it in a busy, busy, busy day. I still found time to think about the book and follow through to some regard in planning for it and just working towards making it exist. Okay? And in the early days, I also found that there was so much resistance that was coming up in my body, so much fear, so much anxiety. And so as I was writing, I would literally bump down further in the page and write what I was thinking, and then go back to writing what I was actually trying to write. And the way this would look is I'm like writing something beautiful, philosophical, but then I jump down and I'm like, I'm so scared. I feel stupid. Why am I doing this? Is anyone going to read this? Are people going to think I'm crazy? And allowing both trains of thought to exist at the same time, and also allowing myself to get it out of my head and to name it, helped me keep going. To literally just put it out there, like, this is stupid, this feels crazy, what that was so helpful for me to be like, okay, cool, we're thinking those thoughts and we're just going to continue on. We're going to acknowledge they're there and then keep diddly daddling typing away. And that just helped me like give space to the fear, because there's so much fear that is coming up when you're working on something huge or working on something hard in any capacity. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be trying to like exercise, trying to get outside every day. Like there's so many obstacles that come up throughout our life, throughout our days, that it is important to be able to give space to the fear so that we can acknowledge it and then continue on being consistent. So, consistency to me, let's recap, is about just working on it or thinking about the thing every day. And yes, this might be very different if you're like training for an Ironman. It's like, okay, great, you can think about eating healthy, but like that's not going to help you get to your goal. Maybe it looks different for you, and that's life, and that's okay. But knowing that for me and my life and the way it was going to work is that the output was going to look different every day. And also, this is kind of real in terms of training for something physically, is that like you can't push 100% on your workout every day. But maybe it's like consistency to you is pushing hard on your workout 4 days a week and then making sure you really recover. You're not just having a rest day, you're having a recovery day. You're getting a massage, you're doing yoga, you're sauna cold plunging, you're having an Epsom salt bath. So it's like this looks and feels different depending on what we're working on. And for me, again, coming back to that of I had too many goals all at once, for the first couple weeks, I was just dialed into this one goal. And also, I've allowed it to change. I've allowed it to evolve. I've allowed this dream of mine to shift the way it looks and feels and how it's taking shape, because it's scary. I don't really know exactly what this is going to be. And for the first 8 weeks, it was all about just writing whatever I felt like writing whatever felt right, editing some of the things I've already written, starting to put things in order for what could possibly be a book structure. And some days felt like I was like bullshitting the fact that I got to cross off a day, because I was just writing that I was like overwhelmed with life and felt a lot of pressure or was worried about things. And I knew in my heart, I'm like, that's not going to end up on the book. This is like a journal entry. But to me, I was like, it's still writing. It's still writing on our doc that says book. All good. And then this past weekend, well, also, actually, I was going to say there was also days where I would like go ham, as I mentioned. So there's balance. There's balance in the output, and give space to that. And that has really helped me to give space to it evolving. But allowing the dream to change and allowing the way it looks to change has been very important to me. Because the way I've been writing has felt very like personal essay like, and it's felt like, I don't know, like my deepest, darkest, hardest things I've experienced, and writing about that from my first POV, and also like writing about actual things I've been through. And like I mentioned, certain days it felt like I was just doing journal entries. And then over this past weekend and over the past week, I picked up this book. And I'm really starting to lean into this abundant mindset. I've lived in this like fear scarcity place for a long time without even realizing it. And doing this whole consistency experiment has really helped me recognize like where I've been really hard on myself and prevented myself from making progress in things because of just like being scared, I guess, and thinking I need to say this. I told a friend, a few months ago that I wanted to write a book, and she suggested I do like the journal practice every morning called morning pages, where you like write free flow for 3 pages unfiltered. You don't take your pen off the page. And I said to her, I am scared that I will run out of things to say. I'm scared that if I do morning pages and I try and write a book like typing on a computer, I'm scared I'll run out of things to say. And also, if I'm writing in a notebook, I'm not writing in a computer, so that doesn't feel like I'm writing towards the book, which kind of felt like a bunch of scarcity all slurred into one. She was like, Jess, what? She's like, you're afraid you're going to run out of things to say? Politely, she's like, first of all, have you met yourself? You have a lot of things to say. And honestly, it's true. What episode are we on? I've been doing Human to Human since 2020. That's 5 years. Sure, I go through my pauses and my breaks where I don't post for a little bit, and that's usually because I'm working on and processing and dealing with things that I'm not ready to talk about publicly. We're on episode 168. 168 episodes. So I clearly have things to say, and I'm not running out of things to say. And so the fact that that was part of my fear seemed hilarious and wild. And I really, really encourage you, if you're going to take anything away from this, to talk to people you love and care about, or just write about it in your own journal about the things you're fearing and struggling with, so that you can name them and hopefully overcome them. Because that's wild. I'm 24 years old and I have not shut up. My boyfriend politely says, like, I'm his donkey from Shrek that, like, follows him around and never shuts up. And he's like, he saw this gif and it was like, I've always wanted a donkey who would follow me around and talk all day. And now I have you. And he's like, that's literally you. He's like, I love it. Sometimes it gets a little annoying because I'm like, how are you still going? But he's like, I'm obsessed. I'm so happy I have a little donkey. And so clearly I'm a yapper. So this fear of mine, it seems irrational, but it was real. And I still have it sometimes. And so there's that. And then also, like I said, I kept thinking, oh, I'm writing a memoir, but it started to feel like I was just writing random thoughts. And I don't know. I kind of also was thinking about like the longevity of that. And this isn't necessarily true. Like, don't take this for what it is, because I think you can write multiple memoirs. But for me, I was like, how will that look? Like, if I want my career to be an author, which I think I do, which is hard because you never really know until you start working on it. But slay, I'm working on it, so we're figuring it out. I'm like, I don't know what I would write after the first one. And so I always take books out of the library. I don't really buy books myself as much anymore. And I love Lucy Score's Knock Mount series. It's like a series of 3 books, romance novels, steamy, sexy, hot, entertaining. Actually, I do have to share. I did not get into this series on my own. My boyfriend, as I mentioned, he barely ever reads books anymore. He used to quite a bit. Now he uses audiobooks once in a while. And he was trying to find a good book, and he came across this book called Things We Never Got Over. And he's like, I'm listening to this book called Things We Never Got Over. It's so good. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to read it while you listen to it. So I put it on hold at the library. It becomes available. I see the cover of it. And just if you haven't seen the cover of it, it is a blue cover with flowers, daisies all over it. And it's called Things We Never Got Over. And I'm like, this has to be a romance novel. Like, there is no way this book is called Things We Never Got Over, and it has flowers on the cover, and it's not a romance novel. But I don't think Josh knows. So I start reading it, and I'm dying. I'm like, this is such a romance novel, and it's so good. And he listens to the whole thing, and he was like, this is what you girls are fucking reading? Because, like, I don't know, it's a whole thing. Like, guys know, like, girls get into their books, they sit up, they read their cozy little books, and he's like, I was getting turned on at the gym. What the hell? Because the sex scenes are epic. And it was so funny. And okay, where's my point with this? My point is that I love Lucy Score. She wrote these 3 books. They were great. Loved the series. So I was like, I want to read another Lucy Score book. So I just like searched up Lucy Score on the Toronto Public Library and saw a book of hers called Story of My Life. didn't read anything about it, put it on hold, and was just like, that's what I do. I put a bunch of books on hold. Some of them I know vaguely what they're about. Some of them I have no idea. And when they become available, I'm like, great, that's the book I'm going to read next. And I never thought about it as like a divine timing thing until now. So this book becomes available, Story of My Life, and I was in a period of time, actually, I forgot about this, where all the books I was trying to read were just bad. Like, I was not into them. All the books that were becoming available that I put on hold in the library were just like not good. I couldn't get into any of them. I like went to the library, took out another book, didn't like it. And so I pick this book up with zero idea what it's about. I start reading. It's a romance novel. It's obvious. But it's about a novelist, a romance novelist, and how she's feeling really, really stuck writing fiction books. And she moves to a small town. I won't like spoil it, but it's like a romance novel. So like obviously like she ends up getting into a guy who's in the small town, hunky, fun. But it feels like this like meta thing where I'm like, it feels like Lucy Score, the author, is writing perhaps about her own life because she's a novelist. And so maybe she's writing, and this is all speculation. I haven't done any research to confirm anything. It could be all made up. But I'm like, it's giving this energy like that the author is writing about her own life, but she's not writing about it as if it's a memoir. It's this character in this book. And I don't know, my mind started to wander of like, what if I wrote a novel inspired by my life, but I could take it in like 10,000 different directions. And I think I started to feel a little bit stagnant because I've been working on this memoir for 2 months and I have all these stories I could put in it, but some of them feel a little bit too personal. Some of them feel like I don't want to share all of it. Some of them I feel like I don't want the person I'm writing about to read about it one day. And so I started to feel stuck. And this book felt like fucking insane divine timing where I was reading it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could write a novel and get 10 times more creative with it than a memoir. And in it, she wrote a series previously, like the character, the protagonist wrote a series and she's trying to write another one to finish off that series and it's just like not working. And so now she's starting a whole new book about her experience living in a small town and she's getting all this inspiration as she's living through it. And it's so cool. And I'm like, okay, wow, what am I doing? And do I want to pivot? And there was this fear that came up of like, you've been working on, this one version of a book you think you're writing for the past 2 months. Like, you've written, like, honestly, it's funny because I didn't write all this in the past 2 months, but I had done this a while ago. I'd taken anything I'd ever written and I put it into a Google Doc so that eventually when I do want to write a memoir, which I think I will do one day, but not now, I don't think, I'm going to be able to use all of this stuff. And I have 175 pages of like stuff I've written. And then I also started to like edit it and revise it and put it into a new doc. That's kind of like my draft one. And in that, I have 100 pages. So there's like a lot of content here, not enough that'll make up a book, but enough that I've put enough effort into it that I'm like, oh, do I want to like do a full pivot and like start over? But then I start talking to Josh about it. I start thinking about it. I start letting like this kind of like mull over in my mind. And I start getting really excited. And I start getting really excited about the idea of like, what if I wrote a book and then I could jump off of that and do a series and write about like, a little bit of inspiration from my relationship, but then a little bit inspiration from another relationship I know, and then another one. Because there's some wild things that some couples that I know have been through, and I totally want to write about it, but I don't want to be stuck to only share their specific story if it's a memoir, and I also don't want to expose all of their personal things they've been through. Anyway, so I start going down this whole kind of like mental track of, is this what I should be doing? And I start brainstorming different ideas of characters and settings and all of this stuff. And like the authors I'm really inspired by, if you're a bookie, if you're a book reader, if you're really into this stuff, Lucy Score, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm obsessed. I don't know how to write like Taylor Jenkins Reid. One day that would be sick because I don't want to stay stuck in like a romance novel category, but also Carly Fortune. I thought her name was Carly Fortune. She posted recently it's Carly Fortune, and she writes books that have taken place in Muskoka in Toronto, in Prince Edward Island, in these places I've been, and it's so freaking cool to read about places that are like fake stories, but it's like within spaces I know well, and it makes it feel so alive. And to go even further down the dream path, I want to turn books into movies eventually. Hopefully, perhaps that's like part of the dream. And I'm like just leaning into these dreams in ways I've never done before, because I've also realized that like I've done the marketing thing, I've done the podcasting for other people thing. I'm doing this like hot cold facilitator thing, like in terms of cold plunge sauna sessions. And it's like I've never explored writing as a real thing for me. And I do want to make a full episode about switching from this scarcity mindset into this abundant mindset. But a part of me is like, should I save this story for that episode? Let's catch the scarcity mindset right there. Jess, you're going to have so many abundant stories to share. You don't need to save a story for a future episode if it feels right to share it right now. And so when I started to decide, okay, am I going to pivot and write a novel instead of writing a memoir? I started to think about my life and if this feels like it fits. And when I was in grade 5, I had a project in class to write a fiction story, a short story. And I remember just getting so deep into the writing. And I barely remember what it's about now, but I remember my teacher saying, "This is the most incredible story he's read, especially of a grade 5 story." And shout out Mr. Minifee. I want to like go talk to him about this and be like, "Can you remind me like what you saw in me when I'm on my dark days?" And I remember he like, I don't know, I think he told the class about it. He put it on display. He told my mom. It was like this like really beautiful thing that happened, and I was like, I didn't know I was good at this. I literally just like wrote from my imagination, and he said it was incredible. So to me, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a sign there that like you've had this ability inside of you for a long time. Because when the fear comes up of like, how the fuck do you write a romance novel if you've never written one before? It's like, no, I do have some sort of instinctual ability in me, and also I can learn. Hello. And so I'm not going to let the fear of not knowing how to do this stop me. And I'm also not going to let the like, the mentality of, oh, my friend told me such a good word for this. When you're in a relationship for a long time and like you're scared of breaking up with this person just because you've put in a lot of hours and years getting to know them. Like, let's not do that. Let's not stay somewhere that doesn't feel good just because we've put enough time into it that it feels like we might have wasted time, because we didn't. We learned and we're evolving, and you might as well make the change now. So that's where I'm at with that. And it's so cool to remind myself that like you've had this instinctual ability in you for a long time. Way before I started podcasting, I've been writing. I had a blog for a while, which now I'm like, oh, these stories that I've written for the memoir, like maybe I'll start posting them on my blog. If you're interested, please tell me. I also have a newsletter you can subscribe to in the show notes. And this is very much igniting this desire to like start sharing in my newsletter again and just sharing some of my writing stuff, because it doesn't need to be like all hidden until suddenly I'm like, I have a book. I also was like, oh my God, you need to like promote your book. Like might as well post about it now leading up to it, which feels like I'm sharing the messy middle. And the other abundant universe timing thing that felt really aligned was when I started working at Othership, which is the spa, hot, cold, sauna, cold plunge space where I'm a facilitator. I decided right before I started working there that I wanted to go by Jessica Jane. If you don't know, my last name is McDonald, and I was always like, Jess McDonald, Jess McDonald, Jess McDonald. But before I started working there, I basically made the call of like, no, I'm going to go by Jessica Jane. And this just reminded me when I first met my boyfriend, Josh, 4 years ago, I remember telling him like, I want to be a writer. Like, I'm going to write a book. And he was like, don't you need to like live a lot of life to like write a memoir? LOL. Shut up, Josh. Now he's like, I don't believe that anymore. I don't know why I said that. So it's cool to think that I would tell him that when I first met him. And sometimes our dreams, we just get lost or we get focused on other things. But yeah, so then leading up to working there, because once you decide what your name is there, your name's on a schedule. Everyone knows you by that name. So it felt like this timing of, okay, I think I'm going to go by Jessica Jane. And Josh said to me, he's like, if you write a book, like that is an author title. Like that is such a cool name. And between you and I do want to get married one day and I do want to change my last name. And the only reason I wouldn't change my last name, and I've always said this, is that if I'm famous or if it's going to fuck up my SEO, which is my search engine optimization, aka if everyone knows me as Jessica McDonald, I would not want to change my last name because I want my business. My business is my priority always. And so thinking about this, and Jane is my middle name, it felt really aligned. And Josh really encouraged me and said, like, Jessica Jane sounds so cool. And not to hate on McDonald, but it sounds like, oh my gosh, I was at the orthodontist the other day and I have not had someone make a McDonald's joke to me since I was literally in grade 5. And this person who worked there, who was taking photos of my teeth because my braces are off and my teeth look great, woohoo, she literally says to me out of nowhere, so do you get like free McNuggets? And I was like, what? And I was like so confused. And she's like, because your last name is McDonald. Do you get free like 6-piece McNuggets? I was honestly offended. I never used to get like that offended when I was a kid. I was honestly offended. I was like, what a fucking rude, uncalled for thing to say. Like, you're making a joke about my last name. Anyway, I'm not the type to get like kind of like my knickers in a twist about that type of thing. But I was like, that was honestly kind of rude. And so, anywho, glad I'm going by Jessica Jane as like my brand. And then it gives me room to be able to change my last name one day. I've always wanted to change my last name as a kid. Like, I don't want that to be like a non-feminist thing of me. I'm a feminist, of course, but like my mom changed her last name. So like growing up, we were always the McDonald's, and I knew more women who changed their last name than women who didn't, which I know is not the norm anymore. But ever since I was a kid, I was like, one day I'm going to get married and I'm going to change my last name. And yeah, so whatever. I'm going to change my last name. So anyway, so I changed my name to Jessica Jane and like specified that my name is Jessica Jane going into Othership, which is great. Now it's like so freaking cute. People be like, Jessica Jane. And I'll be like, yeah. And it like makes me so happy. And like a coworker of mine calls me JJ. And it's just like, it's so fun. And when I first showed up at Othership before my name was on the schedule, I was still in training. I didn't know this person at all. Now I know her well. But when I first like came, I was going to do a class and I'd signed up in advance. And I was like, hey. And she's like, hey, what's your first and last name? And this was awkward because I'm like, Jane's not my last name, but how I present myself there is Jessica Jane. So I was like, oh, it's Jessica Jane. She goes, that is such a cool name. And I was like, oh my God, thanks. And she's like, that sounds like you're a fiction writer. Like you write novels. And I was like, I've always wanted to write a book. And this was way before I started working on my book. And I was like, she was like, write a book. She's like, you got the name for it. I was like, thank you so much. And then the next time I saw her, she goes, how's your book going? And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't started writing my book, but suddenly this person knows I want to write a book and says my name is for writing books. And first of all, what a fucking motivation to start working on the thing you said out loud you want to work on. And now I see her and I'm like, hey girl, I'm writing the book. And now I'm going to be like, wow, I'm actually writing a fiction book. But when I sat with this decision to not write a memoir anymore and to write a novel, I'm saying this also, and I've only written a little bit today about it. So I'm scared. But when I decided to make this decision, when I made this decision to write a novel, and I was thinking about all these moments in my life, I was like, she could have said, writer, you sound like an author. But she said a fiction author. And I am choosing to see that as like, whoa, that's a sign that like, I feel in my gut, like this is the scarier option, but also the option that feels like the most safe. Like I can go so wild with my imagination and still protect myself and my loved ones and the story of all of this. And so the last thing I want to say, because that was a whole tangent and I want to just get back to consistency for a second, is that being consistent with something helps us feel so good about ourselves. And I started off with just saying I'm going to write every day. But then I also saw this calendar and I was like, I want to keep track of when I'm working out and moving my body. because that's another goal of mine, is to make sure I'm really like being healthy and lifting weights and taking care of myself. And so I started writing whenever I would do yoga or lift weights or go for a run or whatever. And the satisfaction I feel when I get to look at that calendar and been like, wow, I didn't realize I've been showing up for myself like this. I didn't realize that, like, it seems so simple just to make sure maybe I didn't do anything movement wise today. So, okay, I'm going to go on a quick walk. And so I showed up for myself. Like, if it allows me at least to feel so good about myself that I'm like, wow, I'm showing up for myself. I'm taking care of myself. I'm working towards my dreams. And that alone is worth the pursuit of this. Whether or not my book sees the light of day, which it will, and hopefully becomes a bestseller, all of that. But whether or not that happens, that's not what this is about. This is about how good it feels to pursue a dream and to be in the process of it and be working towards it. And that's what it's all about. It's not about the destination. So often when you achieve something huge, you go, okay, what now? Right? But right now I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm pursuing. And I even wanted to write a fiction novel because then I could set it up so I could write a series and write about different characters. And so I'm not just setting myself up to write a book. I'm setting myself up to have a career as an author. Oh, this sounds so crazy to say out loud. And I hope this inspired you. And I hope that dream that was tickling at your butt cheeks is like, you know what? Why don't I just give it a go? And when I was living in my apartment downtown and my life was crazy and I was working multiple jobs, I was like, this isn't forever. And I know I'm meant to work on my book soon. And I felt it in my gut. And then I'd moved home. I had my laser eye surgery. I got my braces off. My life started to become more stable. And I was like, now's the time. And it didn't feel that wonderful about how it all came to be. You know how it actually all came to be, which maybe I should have shared at the beginning? I started to feel like my life was pointless. I started to question things. I started to wonder what I was even doing. I started to call my boyfriend crying, being like, what is the meaning of life? I'm just working and hanging out alone at home all the time. What am I doing? And he gave me so much tough love and slapped me metaphorically across the face and was like, you're a writer, Jess. You've always wanted to do this. Fucking do it. And so it's not always easy to start. And sometimes we need to get to a bit of a sad, weird, awkward, confusing, challenging place to start. But hey, sometimes you got to dip low to go high. I don't know. Oh, if you are enjoying these episodes, please share it with a friend or share it on your social media or just share it in some capacity because it would mean a lot. And it would be so cool if you're a future reader one day of Jessica Jane. Please subscribe so you don't miss episodes when I post. And keep up with me on Instagram and TikTok at With Jessica Jane. I am sharing a ton of writing stuff. Like I'm trying to just like daily post along with when I do my daily writing and share a little sneak peek into what I'm working on. So I'm super excited to be in the pursuit of this dream, and I encourage you to step into your freaking power and choose to start working on your own. Love you, and I'll see you so soon.